Hello everyone, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop. Welcome to part 2 of the commissioned Canjo builds, plural. So you may remember, those of you that saw the first video in this series, I've got 3 cans. I've got an old dog food can, I've got this rather pretty cocoa Dutch cocoa tin from the Netherlands, and I've got this this cake tin to make the cake tin Canjo, exactly the same as the previous one that I'd sold, but that one was green, this one's red, beautiful sort of pinkish red. I've been doing a bit of the work off camera, just basically to get started, because to be honest, getting started on these projects is often, you know, sort of a bit time consuming and a bit boring. So I've cut out some neck blanks. So actually these two, they're no good. This one, it's got a ridge in there, and the wood itself is pretty gnarly, so that I'm not going to be using that. Might have some use for it later on. Then this one, it looks okay, but there isn't really a straight edge on it. I might be able to use that one better than the other one, but that's not going to be used for this project. So I've got this one, so you can get some idea of the size. It's about 3 centimeters by 2.5. Very rough cut at the moment. This is going to be for the dog food can one. I'll probably have to cut it a bit shorter as well. And I've got this one, which is a fair bit chunkier. It's about 3 centimeters square-ish, not quite square. And this one is going to be for the cake tin Canjo, and for the cocoa Dutch cocoa tin, I've got this one. I've got a few clamps on it, gluing up because I made a little bit of a boo-boo. But it's nothing that can't be fixed easily. So this is the neck for the cocoa tin, for the Dutch cocoa tin. Basically what I did was I cut away, you're not really going to be able to see it, but I cut away a portion of the back of the neck to allow for the tuner. So this is the tuners I'm going to be using in these ones. I've got 3 of these, exactly the same. It's actually a set. So these are the just normal guitar tuners, the ones that go through from the back to the front. As opposed to the classical guitar tuners, which go through the side, and then you have the post in the middle with a hole through the headstock, as it were. But because these are quite narrow, those classical guitar tuners are not going to work, because they'll go through the side of the headstock just fine, but the string holes won't be in the middle, they'll be right over to one side, which isn't much good. So I'm going to be using these. So I've got the necks roughly cut out. So as I said, this one is going to be for the dog food tin one. So first thing I need to do is smooth down one side for what is eventually going to be the fretboard. So what I need to do, and the mistake I made on the other one, which I'm now fixing, I do need to make a step in the back so that the tuner, because if I don't, the tuner doesn't go through, you see. So I need to make a step in the back so that the tuner actually goes through. But what I forgot to do on the other one is I actually need to make a step on the top as well, so that this bit is lower than the rest. So that how can I explain it? So when the strings come up the fretboard and then over the nut, they need to go down towards the tuning post. If you have it if you have it the same height, then when the, let's do that in a place where you can see it. If you have it the same height, then when the strings come up over the nut, then they're going up, which is no good. You need them to angle down so that you get the tension to hold everything in place, basically. The next step for this neck is to smooth off one side. So what I'm going to do is just place it in my Black & Decker workmate, good old trusty, and now, so I did already start on the other neck with this process. I didn't show it on camera because, as suspected, I made one or two mistakes with it. I didn't really want to show that. So I do have a plane, but it's not a very good one, and it's certainly not suitable for this job. You need a really good one, and you need to be able to use them properly. And I'm not that good with a plane, to be honest. So what I'm going to use is, actually, let me just pause here. I'll get the tools I need. I'll put them all away. So I'll get the tools I need and I'll show you what I'll be using. 1 second. Okay, so there's 3 things that I'm going to use for this little job. The first one, I've just got this big old chunk of wood block, which does have a straightish edge, and just wrap a piece of 120 grit sandpaper around it. So that will get the bulk of the rough material off and we'll level it to a degree. I've also got my fret file, which again is mounted on a block. Now this is actually a metal file, but the wood rasps they're too coarse for this job, because by the time I get to, once I've done with this sanding block, it will be quite close already. So this will start to smooth it a bit. And then I've got my leveling beam. It's only a 6-inch leveling beam, a bit short really. I would have preferred a longer one. So this has 4 different grits of paper around it. We've got 400 grit on this side, then 600 grit on this side, 1,000 on this side, and 1,200 on this side. So that's what I'll be doing. So let me just turn you around. Okay, so I'm going to start with the big sanding block, which, as I said, will take off a majority of the rough surface. It is pretty rough, so here we go. So you'll see that what I'm doing is I'm going the full length up and down, because if you just do it one piece at a time, you're going to end up with unevenness. So I have to go straight from one end to the other and back, keep the pressure even, and make sure I don't rock this side to side, and we should be good to go. So let's give it a go. Okay, so I'm not sure how well you'll see this, but we're already starting to see some low spots. I don't know if you can see that at all in this camera. It's just my phone, which has not got a great camera. So just that, literally 30 seconds of sanding, and I've already picked up all the low spots, and if I continue with this, we should be able to take those away. So here we go. So I forgot to mention the neck blanks that I'm working on one now. I cut them out with my bandsaw from that big chunk of wood I showed you in the first video. I've been having a couple of issues with the bandsaw, not the bandsaw itself, but the blade. The blade that was on it, it was a cheap one. It was already a bit blunt, but I thought I'd rather use that one to get through the job rather than putting a new one on and destroy that one as well. Well, I'd cut the first neck blank out, then I was in the middle of cutting the next one, and I got about that far from the end and the blade on the bandsaw snapped. Didn't half go with a ping. Luckily, no injuries or anything like that. So I ummed and ahed and thought, should I put the new blade on just to do the next cut, because I had one more cut to make, and I thought, yeah, I might as well. So I did that. So I've got all the neck blanks cut out on the bandsaw. I am going to have to get a new blade for the bandsaw because the main purpose for the bandsaw for me is for shaping. It's not really meant for cutting out these big chunks of wood. It's not a heavy duty one. It's not really designed for the job. So I need to get a new blade, and I'm going to get a better quality one, and then I'll be using it quite a bit for the shaping of some of these necks and the bodies as well. Okay, rather than blowing the sawdust away and getting it all in the face, I'll use a brush. Yeah, starting to get there. Okay, it's starting to get there. I'm not going to film all of this, it's not particularly exciting. So once I've got to the final stage of sanding, where I'm basically smoothing it, I'll bring you back and show you where we're at. So I'm going to pause for now and get this job finished. Okay, so I've been doing quite a bit of sanding off camera. It's getting pretty good now. So as I said, I started with the big block with 120 on it. Then I went to... Why is my camera the wrong way around? Never mind. Then I went to, I think it's 240 or something like that. I've been through with the 400 and the 600, and now I'm going to go to the 1000 grit. It's getting really smooth now. So these fretboards, they don't have to be 100% perfect when you've only got one string, because it's only crucial for them to be level across the board rather than the length of it, or both actually, when you've got two or more strings, because they need to be the same height all the way down. So it's not quite so critical with one string instruments, but it's still, you've still got to get it pretty flat and level. Any bows or twists or anything like that, you're going to get buzzing and all sorts. So it has got to be pretty good, just not quite so critical as a multi-stringed instrument. Wow, that's pretty much glass smooth, and that's just with the 1000. So I'm now going to go to the 1200 to really. I mean, really, the 1200 is more like polishing than actually sanding. It does take it off, but very, very fine, and just makes the whole finish glass smooth. Oh, and that really is. It's so smooth. And it doesn't take long, even with this hard wood. You know, provided you give yourself a good starting point. It's got to be as straight as possible when you make the cut, otherwise your work is just horrendous. I don't think I'm going to get that a lot smoother than that right now. So I'm literally just polishing it now. And I haven't worried too much about this far end, because that will be inside the tin, or the can. So that doesn't matter, that's not going to be part of the fretboard, it's just going to be part of the structure. Right, a little bit more and I think we're done on that. Wow, beautiful. Okay. So, let's just move you back there a bit. So I'm just going to look down the neck. Yeah, you're not going to get it much better than that. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so really you would think the next stage would be to mount it in the can, but to be honest that's more or less the last job that you do, to be fair. So how are we doing for time? Wow, really? Wow, okay. I don't have much time left for this then. So what I'm going to do now is I need to mark out where I'm cutting the step away top and bottom to allow for the tuner. So as you can see at the moment, if it was to go in like that, it's not even going to stick out the top. So just get a couple of tools. Okay, so I've got a small ruler and a mechanical pencil, not an expensive one, but it's got a 0.5mm lead in there. So first I'm going to, these cutaways, they don't have to be, you know, thousandth of an inch accurate. It's just ballpark really. So I want to cut enough off this way to allow for the length of the tuner, if that makes sense. So if I didn't cut enough off, it would be hanging over the edge like that, no good. So I'll need to make sure I cut off enough to allow the length of the tuner bracket. So let me just see if I can angle you down a bit. I don't think. No. How will I have that before then? That's no better, is it? Okay, 1 second, let me just try something. How's that? That's better, but it's not very stable. Okay. Right, it's a little better. So I'm just going to just eyeball really the length of the bracket on the tuner to make sure I cut enough away. And bear in mind, when you mount a tuner, the tuning peg should be above this post, if that makes sense. So if this is the top of the instrument, the tuning peg is always above the post. So make sure I get it the right way around first. It's that way. So I'm going to want about, I'm going to leave a little bit extra. So let's just measure that, see what we've got there. It's like 3.8 centimeters. Should I go to 4 centimeters? I don't think I need to. Let me just double check. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to cut away more if you need to, but if you cut away too much, you know, that's not so easy to fix. So I don't want to go too much. So I'm going to stick with that measurement for now, 3.8 centimeters. I'll just get a little square. Well, a big square. Yeah, I mean the sides are not all that square, so maybe I'll measure it both sides and then draw the line across and just double check. That's 3.8. So I go 3.8 on this side. About there. That looks good. Right, so that's the line that I'm going to cut to. Now I need the depth. So I don't need very much. I think about 5mm should do it. Let's see. Yeah, that looks about right to me. I'm going to mark it on this side because it's much smoother. That's a very rough side. So I'm going to cut away 5mm down. Okay, so I've got to get this quite accurate. I wish I could see better. Oh. Okay, 5mm. To a line, 5mm. Okay. Going to need to measure that again. It's not quite lining up. Yeah, I've gone a bit short this end. That's why. Okay. So that's what I'm going to be cutting away. I'm going to cut this away first before I measure how much I need to cut from the back to allow the tuner to go through. So at the moment you see if I don't cut any away, there's only going to be a little bit at the top of the post sticking out. So I will need to probably take about the same again off the back, about 4 or 5mm, but I'm going to cut this first and then measure again. So I'm going to do this on my bandsaw. I'm not going to take you up close because it's pretty noisy. I've also got my shop vac attached to the bandsaw to try and take away some of the dust. It doesn't take it all away, but it does help. So I'm going to make this cut and then come back. How much time have we got? I'm going to need to pause it. Otherwise we'll run out of time while I'm doing the cut. And it's noisy anyway, so I'll bring you back in 1 second. Okay, so I made that cut on the top, and when I put the tuning peg up to it, it still didn't look quite right. So I actually ended up taking off a little bit more and took a very small amount off the bottom. So now when the tuning peg is in there, you see it goes all the way through. And the whole of the tuning peg, you can see at what kind of level that is at. So it's more or less level with the top of the fretboard. Now bear in mind, obviously there's going to be a nut here, so the string will be slightly higher, and then it will come down to this tuning post. Now, I'm sure there's more accurate ways of measuring all this up, but to me, that looks like it's going to be spot on because, as I said, the whole of the tuning peg, I mean the hole where the string goes through, is just about in line with the top of the fretboard. But the string is going to be slightly higher than that because it will come up over the nut, and then it will come down to this. So that should be just about right. And measuring that, we've got enough of the post sticking up. You just want a little bit more than the actual whole part. You want a bit of the shaft as well. So the next thing is to measure where I'm going to put this tuning peg, but that's going to be in part 3 because I'm almost out of time again. So once again, thank you all for watching. Hope you're enjoying this new project, and it's going to be quite a long series, so please hit that notification bell if you haven't already, and all the usual stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.